coming into Wake, I didn't look like a lot of people here, and I didn't come from the same background and socioeconomic status as a lot of people here. So it was hard to find my place on campus. It was hard to find where I belong. It was hard to find organizations and groups that would openly embrace me and make my experience here a little bit more whole and genuine. And it took about a year and a half to get over that, but once I kind of put all that aside and focused on my academics, academics were another bit of adversity I faced early on here, just because I didn't know how to,
I think it's how to balance, because I'm doing a double major and I also have extracurricular activities. So because Wake Forest is known as work forest, there's a lot of work, and you don't want your life to be full of working and homework or preparing for tests. So like how to balance my life is a key issue for me.
I was walking into the library. I lived in Babcock, so I was walking into the library just to go study. And it was sometime right after the U.S. News World Report scores came out and the rankings. And when I came, it was like 25 or 24 or something like that. But that year we were 27. And I was walking in right behind like these two white girls, and they were said, well, you know why the U.S. News World Report's rankings went down, right? She's like, yeah, it's because they've admitted so many black and minority students. And then like I could see them in the peripheral, notice that I was behind them because they turned beet red and then started walking really fast. But I was just like, dude, like I got here because I'm smart, the same as you. I started to feel really out of place before and after that. Like I was constantly having to prove myself to my classmates about like, yes, I belong here, not just because like I wasn't here just because I'm black and Native American and Hispanic. Like, no, I'm here because like I worked hard.
I was pretty shocked when I came to Wake and just surprised being here as an adult woman that there's a lot of sexism when you are in a place where it's mostly young people who don't really have any checks on their boundaries or what they can say, what they can do. And growing up here, I always thought, oh, Wake Forest is this utopia, and it is in many ways for a lot of people. But sometimes I was made uncomfortable by, policies at parties, or even like party themes, or just like stereotypes that I felt like I didn't really want to conform to as a, Wake woman. But that's really in comparison to other adversity I've seen, that hasn't been like the sum of my experience. But I think a lot of students here, if they're not a part of Greek culture, or if they don't wear certain clothes, or if they aren't familiar with certain music, or really any part of like a majority culture here at Wake, can be really uncomfortable for them because they're away from their friends and their family and everyone who really understood them in high school. And then to be in a place where you feel like, at least as a freshman, you haven't figured out anything, you feel like no one gets you, it can be really tough.
Within my group of friends, I was definitely the least financially well-off person. And so they would want to go out to dinner 3 nights a week, go to the movies every weekend, things like that. And so I would say, I can't, I have to work, I have to work, I have to work, pretty much every single day. And even when I did have time off, I was kind of like, well, I'm paying for my own college here, so I don't really have the spending money to go out to nice restaurants 4 days a week. And that kind of became difficult to stay friends with certain people because they would just stop inviting me places.
One night I was walking, it was like on a Friday night, like back from a party, and these white men in a group yelled the N-word at me. We're just like, what's up, Mike? And I was like, what just happened? What? I can't. I actually can't. And I wasn't so much surprised because I'd heard of other people saying that it was happening, and I kind of suspected that when I was at frat parties and people were saying it, I was like, I'm just gonna pretend it's not actually happening. But to have it be so blatant and have it be to people that I knew who they were, we lived together, so to have it be people that I knew, it really it took me aback.
I think for me, not necessarily a situation, but just ever since I came to Wake, I felt the homogenous culture as a really big pressure. and kind of like stepping into my freshman dorm and realizing that everybody looked the same and everybody was wearing really similar clothes and doing really similar activities, and I didn't really fit into a lot of that. And so not necessarily one identity, but just kind of feeling like a few of my identities didn't quite fit into the Wake Forest image.
I had a hard time making friends fall of freshman year just because I missed some of the activities that our hall did together, so I didn't really get to know them, and then just trying to find people on Wake's campus. So it was kind of hard for me to make friends until this semester, and I actually finally found my friend group.
Fall of 2016, I had a rough time academically, and I feel like that started to show through in a lot of mental health kind of ways. So I was going to counseling, as I still do, because counseling is awesome and I highly recommend it. And talking about my own mental health, I was also struggling with my sexuality and worried about coming out to my parents, and I was sort of testing the waters coming out to my peers. I would kind of casually comment, "Oh, I met this girl on Tinder," but it was, and see what the reaction would be, but I was never outright saying, "Hi, I like girls."
So through these experiences, I have learned to always empathize with other people. Wake Forest is a really diverse campus that brings together people of different experiences, different viewpoints, different opinions, and it's really important to always empathize with what people are going through and to really try and understand how their day is or what their opinion is, why do they believe that.
So I learned that even though it could be tough coming from high school to college and not knowing many people, you can really find your core friend group and find yourself through exploring different clubs and different opportunities here at Wake.
I think the biggest thing that I learned from my adversity that I faced early on is that it's important to stay true to who you are. It's important to be your true authentic self and don't conform or assimilate to the people around you or the dominant culture, because once you do that, you lose a part of yourself and you're just not being true to who you are, and you will have a tougher time socially and academically. Also, a bit of advice that I learned was just to keep an open mind and don't be afraid to try new things. College is a time where you step out of your comfort zones and try things that you would never try in high school, middle school, even back home with your parents, and not be judged for it, essentially.
Leaving Wake Forest with a whole bunch of knowledge. I would have come, if you would have asked me the first month of school here, before I started to get involved, did things like racism or sexism and so on and so forth exist, I probably would have said no. I came from a really sheltered background where things were constructed to the extent you could really believe everything was great. But Wake has definitely allowed me to not only learn, deeply learn about all of these complex systems, but also to practice activism and find communities. And when adversity does strike, as it always will for everyone, be able to rely on these networks and communities I've built to make it through. So while Wake has confronted me with a bunch of challenges, it's also prepared me to find my way out of them.
I learned that, that I am capable, that I have potential, that I am smart, that there's anyone can't tell me that I can't do anything or that I don't deserve to be here, because I do.
I learned I was resilient, and resiliency is not a bad word. When someone described me as resilient once, and I felt like resilient was like a bacteria. That's not good. I'm resilient. What is that? I can know what that means, but is that a compliment? But I've come to appreciate that one individual call me a resilient person, because that resiliency means that you can be thrown a lot, but you don't have to be affected by it.
Well, I think for my first year, for the first semester, it was really tough. I was dealing with some like friendship issues at the same time, and what really turned around my entire freshman year, and I think actually defined my whole Wake Forest experience since then, has been Branches, which is a social justice retreat, which is open to all students. I think they took 90 people last year, so it's a pretty good group, a pretty large group of people. And you just learn more about yourself. You learn more about your identity, your gender identity, learn more about your racial identity, learn more about, you know, where you come from, socioeconomic status. And in high school, I knew those things existed, but I didn't really think about them. And if I did think about them, I usually thought about them in terms of minority identities. When I thought about race, I thought about racial minorities. I didn't think about what it means to be a white person, which was kind of funny. I spent 18 years not even thinking about a huge part of my identity and the good parts of that, and also the bad parts of how that's affected other people. And it was really a turning point for me. A lot of older Wake Forest kids took me under their wing and took time to, you know, help me walk through things without being judgmental. It was a big growing experience.
Wake actually was really here for me in a lot of ways. I found such a great community of people who were so open and loving. And when I was coming out to my parents, and my mom was kind of saying something along the lines of, you know, you can either be my definition of a Christian and live here, or you can go live in what her definition of sin was and stay out of the house. When I was going through that, I found some great friends who really took me in and made me feel welcome and comforted and loved for who I am. And so that was like way more than I expected from Wake, because it was not only students, it was professors and faculty, and even like a couple people who work at the Starbucks who would ask me how I'm doing every day. So it was really nice to have that kind of loving interaction.
So I found the Intercultural Center, or what was OMA, Office of Multicultural Affairs, when I first came here. The students that hang out in those spaces are really caring, really compassionate. So even the staff members, so even when I started to feel really apprehensive about coming back the next year, I knew that I had that support network behind me.
The professors are really great help, and I have a lot of friends, and I go to some of my friends use the counseling center. I've heard it's a great help.
From the databases in CSR to the staff at the counseling center to your RAs, staff at all of the identity centers on campus. There is a really unique set of people at Wake Forest.
For me, I think it was a lot of connecting to students who were more like me through the Magnolia Scholars Program and the LGBTQ Center, just like meeting people with more shared experiences who could relate.
Consider the ramifications of your actions and put into perspective how that may impact a student's experience beyond just that moment. I think it could help you understand the consequences of your actions.
I'll tell students to believe in themselves, because it's coming to college is always hard, especially when at Wake Forest, where everybody seems to be in the top 10% of their class, have graduated with honors and all these awards. So you're going to compare yourself. You're going to feel like you're not good enough, but know that you are, and that you're worth a lot.
Probably to really seek out your place, to not necessarily expect to find your people or your place in your freshman hall or maybe your freshman dorm or your first class, but to really make a pointed effort to seek out the one place that's catering to you and that really values your identities.
I would say come here and lead with a compassionate heart. We're all here, we're all trying to like support each other, learn from one another, really try and learn from other people.
It's just really important to ask for help and find through the different offices on campus. I guarantee that you can just walk in and say that you need some help, and that's okay. And then my second piece of advice is to be uncomfortable. So you'll have a lot of conversations, you'll take a lot of classes that might make you uncomfortable and that might bring you to a place that you don't want to talk about that issue, you don't want to think about that issue. That's just not where you want to go. But there's a reason that you're having uncomfortable conversations, and that's usually to make sure that you're aware of who you are, to make sure what your words and your actions mean to other students on campus. So be uncomfortable and sit with that and think about why you're uncomfortable.
Wake has a ton of resources. Use them. I have been to the Learning Assistance Center, I've been to the Counseling Center, I've been to the LGBTQ Center, I've been to the Women's Center, and they're all really great people who are there to just help you through what you're going through, and they all know that you're a freshman and it's tough and that you're trying to find like your people and what you want to do. But if you use the resources that they drill into your head during orientation, you'll be fine, and they're very helpful.
Don't drink the punch. Go to office hours. Oh my God, please go to office hours. That is the difference between a D and a B. And make sure that whenever you do find your group of friends, you let them know how important they are to you.
The most important thing to do while you're here will be to like capitalize on your resources and the courses that are here. If you think about it, people work and like construct every aspect of your life, from the classroom to activities outside of it. The opportunities here are endless. And you only have 4 years to do it, and it goes by quickly. So you need to start on day one, taking advantage of everything you can at Wake Forest.